And I want to say good morning. It's December the 3rd, 2020. We are super excited, Michelle Mullins and myself, Jennifer Britton, to be welcoming special guest Kristin Winkle-Beck, who's talking today with us on making intentional changes and, of course, pivoting. And you might have seen Kristin with us about a month or two ago. This is her second return to the Remote Pathways podcast. So great to have you. But first, Michelle, good morning to you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. In all transparency, I stayed up way past my bedtime. I'm usually like, don't laugh, but I go to bed at like 8, 8:30.
I
And
just
last night I stayed up till like 10. I was actually on the phone with Linda at 10, like, oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna be so I'm way past my bedtime. So I'm waking up with you. Jennifer Grody, one of our past guests, right? She asked this great question on social media. How many drinks do you have on your table, every day? I have 3 going right now. I got coffee, tea, water. Yeah, I see at the virtual table, everybody's got multiple cups going on. Yeah, I love it. That's
That might be
great.
my new favorite icebreaker question for Zoom. I love that.
Oh, awesome.
Well, Kristin, making intentional changes, it's always about mixing it up. We're going to welcome you back. And Michelle, would you like to do a little intro of Kristin's bio maybe before we kick off so people
Oh,
know who she is?
yes. And I will not do her justice because she's an absolute treasure. But as Jennifer mentioned before, Kristin is a returning guest. She came last time with her seat at the virtual table with the in the voluntary sector with Social Venture Partners in Charlotte. But today she is here with us for her own company as the founder of Pivot Point Professionals. Best name ever for a company, by the way. And we're just going to glean from her wisdom today. What I love, her voice carries so much weight because she not only speaks these things, but she's lived it out. And I pay attention when people actually live out what they say. So can't wait to learn from you, Kristin.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. And this is a work in progress. So my story is still being written just like everyone else's. And so I come today as much as a student as I am as somebody who's had a little bit of experience in this space. And I always love the opportunity to be around a different virtual table to meet new faces and hear, new experiences. And I always walk away with something too. So that is my hope today, is that each one of us would walk away with a little bit of encouragement as we head into reflecting back on 2020 and thinking ahead for 2021. The word pivot was definitely not the buzzword that it was 2 years ago when I named my coaching and consulting practice, but it was just this word that I could not shake. It was very, very present every time I started to think about what I was in the midst of and what I wanted to help people do. The word pivot truly just kept, I just couldn't shake it. And so I know a lot of people, they associate it with the Friends episode, the really funny, couch twisting episode, which I love. And I'm a huge Friends fan. So that was great. And then this year, it just exploded in terms of popularity. So some people cringe. I still really hold it close. And I think that pivoting is a good thing. So lean into it if you have the opportunity. And I'm excited to be here today.
So great to have you here, Kristin. Well, we're going to get started, and welcome if this is your first time. We hope that you'll join us. We do these calls every 2 weeks, roughly the first and third Thursdays. Bring your breakfast beverage of choice, or wherever you are in the world. It might even be an evening beverage of choice, because it is always 5 o'clock somewhere in the world. Today, we're gonna get you thinking about, your story. So Michelle, take us away on this. I brought the little tools, but you bring the story behind it.
Yes. Okay. So I'm hiding my own question right on Zoom, some of the Zoom challenges. I actually pulled this from Kristin's website. Are you ready to pivot towards your purpose with passion? I just love that invitation. So I thought we'd have fun with the story cubes. Can't remember exactly how they go, but I remember you've got some fun little coaching tool there with us, right? That we're going to play.
So,
And
yeah.
yeah.
And you go ahead, Michelle.
Go ahead. I'm passing to you. We're having
Okay,
remote
that's
real
an
life
end, that's an
moment
end,
today.
and over to you, Jen. So we're going to play with Rory's story cubes today, as usual. And the question is, ready to pivot towards your purpose with passion? If you have never seen these, you can always pick up a copy at Amazon. We are not sponsored by them, but they're an amazing experiential tool. Um, they are 9 different icons. And so today we get a choice, right? Like I think part of pivoting is all about choice. So what's the number? Kristin Winkle-Beck is our special guest. Pick a number between 1 and 9, and that will help us determine how many dice get rolled today.
4.
4. I thought you might say 4. I'm going to just randomly say 4, and 1 fell on the ground, which I'll just give us as a bonus. Linda, as our guest, also as an attendee, you can tell me when to stop and throw the die.
Go ahead, throw the dice.
So here's what we have. A shooting star. So here's the invite. I'm going to show you the 4 icons. I want you to write these down, maybe draw these down, and create a bit of a storyline for yourself. Okay, so icon 1 is the shooting star. Icon 2 is a flower. Icon 3 is the magnifying glass. And my hands are too small. Icon 4 is the flashlight. Now, interestingly, 1 fell on the floor. And the one that fell on the floor was the book. So there's a bonus, number 5, to add, which is the book. Let's take 60 seconds right now. And I'd love for everyone listening to just create their own mini storyline around these 5 icons. So again, it's a shooting star, it's the flower, magnifying glass. We also have the flashlight and a book. Take a minute and just create a story for yourself this morning. All right. So welcome. And we hope that this, like many of the different things we do at the start of our calls, brings you really into the room to think about our sacred time together. Michelle, what emerged for you with those icons today?
Little words. I don't have a whole story, but I've got by faith, Michelle. Shined with God's light, bloomed where she was planted, dreamed 5 times bigger, and I have and shined a flashlight on all the beautiful people in the world, just investing in others and sharing others. So yeah. How about you, Jen? Tell me what
How
came to
about,
your
well,
heart.
it's interesting these came up. So some of you know one of my micro brands is called Stand Out Virtually. So the sort of the shooting star represents like stand out in this space. I think it's really time. I have a couple of books coming out in 2021. One of them actually has a whole icon. Thanks to Michelle and I last week, we were talking about like the magnification effect. So it's a book on remote entrepreneurism, but it's all about how do we magnify, and whether it's 5x, 10x, or even 100x, what we bring to the table. So I think for all of us, this year has been a year of seed planting. And I think next year will be like a lot of flowers getting sort of bloomed, but we still need to look at things, right? We still need to like shine a light into those dark corners, shine a light on what's working as well. And I think, again, it will come out in my books next year. So that was really cool. Yes. How about you, Kristin? What emerged for you?
Well, I was secretly, as you were holding those up, I was sort of rooting for some of them. And so I was really excited that some of those did turn up. So that was cool. For me, 2021 and the shooting star really does signify hope. And as many of you have referenced, that blooming. And for me, it's the hope of blooming something that, as I think about that magnifying glass, is how do I amplify the impact of those who are with their flashlights searching, right? They're trying to navigate, they're trying to discern what's next. And for me, it's what can I do in the coming year that will accompany them, that will come alongside with them, will amplify their ability to do that. And then for me, the book represents kind of archiving what is occurring. And I did not do a great job necessarily during my sabbatical year or even this challenging year of documenting as much as I wish I had, because it is always so encouraging for me to look back and see all that I've come through and to appreciate the growth, the opportunity. And so that book really represents to me reminding people to encourage to write down, just write down the things that in the everyday, in the simple, the revelations, the reflections, the aha moments, because sometimes those can be a real encouragement on a challenging day when you have something to look back and see the progress that you've made.
Love it. Love it. And I'm glad you two are rooting for many of these, that magnify, amplify, great words. Linda, how about you?
Mind blown.
You can't make this stuff up, people. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. Soar was from the shooting star. Soar, grow, focus, share the light with your book. But there's a lot more to that, because last night I released a book 5 years ago. And last night I was sharing about the significance of number 5 in my book, because the name of my book is Worthy of a Miracle, 5 Simple Truths for Believing and Receiving God's Love. I was given less than 5% chance of survival when I was in a coma on life support in the 2009 pandemic while I was going through cancer. So 5 is significant, and my book is like crazy significant. But the fact that last night I was doing my book study for the very first time ever. I'd never had, offered a book study in the 5 years. And the fact that that book fell down and it was number 5, like I'm just going, as I wrote it down, and I drew like the book, and then I'm like, and I just wrote like 5 beside it. And then as I started writing out my words, so anyway, it's just what a powerful exercise for me, because I don't think it's just by coincidence. I believe that, God speaks to us in different ways, and unique, creative ways. And so it was just another like stamp of approval on continue to get your story out there. And what a cool, unique way to do that. So thank you for this exercise.
Well,
love it.
We aim to please here at the Remote Pathways podcast. And this is a big part of the work that I do, our story today. And we'd love to hear from you if this had significance, if you're listening in. There really is always a reason, I do believe. I've used these for years, and every room, virtual or physical, I bring them into, there is some connection. So thank you. Again, we're here today to spotlight Kristin, but as we've heard, there's always going to be resonance for us. Q4, we're really in this phase of reflection. And so whether you're listening in Q4 or not, we invite you to continue to pause on what has significance and where you want to go. Our last call, we took a year in review because we have now officially stepped into season 2. It's hard to believe how long and how wonderfully varied these conversations are. This month, it is, of course, about making intentional changes with Kristin. So welcome again, Kristin. I'm gonna pass off to Michelle, but I love this quote of like, a year from now, what will you wish you had done today? Everything starts with that first step, and those first few steps, consistent action, daily steps plus consistent action, creates the momentum to create amazing shooting stars and a lot of other things. So Michelle, take us from here.
Yeah, it's all about the discussion, just setting up. I love just what happened around the virtual table because that's what happens every time that we're here, right? That question just prompts something wherever you are. And what a fabulous guest that we have today that has walked her own path of saying yes to her purpose, right? And making that pivot. So, Kristin, we're here to glean from you. And I know your heart had to be dancing too while you were listening, because you can hear when people's stories, I guess, are being sparked, you know that pivot is about to come. So we're here to glean from you. Please take it
Yeah,
away.
so this picture was actually taken on my back deck. It is a mug that I own that I was given by a fellow coworker. We actually left corporate America on the same exact day. She's just recently made another major pivot. She left North Carolina and is chasing her dream in Montana. And so every time I see this, I think about, and I pull it out of my cabinet to get my morning coffee a lot, and I think about what's a year from today going to look like, right? And so when you start to set it into context of like the choices that you make today could inform next year or next week or next month or next quarter, but sometimes we just need that little gentle nudge to say, okay, well, what has really been on my heart lately? What are the things that I keep kind of pushing to the back, either because it feels too scary or because it feels a little too big to tackle yet. But I think sometimes for me, a lot of that clarity came in the stillness and came in me carving out and pushing back things that maybe were extra or, just that make the world really loud and really busy. And so as we head into December, I know the natural cycle of the year sometimes for people, they get a little more space and a little more time. Maybe they have time off from other commitments. Things take a break over the holiday season. So the questions that you see here are really just an invitation to say, what's kind of been, rumbling around in my heart, and what have I been a little reluctant to step back and say, you know, does it need more time? Does it need more focus? Does it need more amplification, or more reflection? And so these are some of the questions that I really wrestled with before I left my corporate life, for a good number of months, because I was not crystal clear. I think that's the other thing I would just encourage people is that I was very type A, and I still am, but as I was contemplating the move, I thought I had to have it all planned out. I thought I had to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G before I took my foot, off first base to go to second. I had to have a clear path around the bases, to use a baseball analogy. And what I realized was you cannot get to second base without taking your foot off first. And so I would just hope that this could be some encouragement to say, it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to take one step in direction that you feel very much like you're being led. And so these are just some questions to help people start to think about, what is one little thing you can do today that might get you closer to taking your foot off first base, or getting you closer to taking a step in a different direction, and then when you successfully take that first step, then the second step gets easier, and the third step gets easier. And then all of a sudden more of the path illuminates as you get a little further in your journey. And my story is still being written, as I said at the opening of the call. Like I don't necessarily know what the future holds, but I think life is about directional navigation. And if you feel stuck, or if you feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, taking this time for yourself to step back and answer some of these questions. So I would love to see if any of these questions are resonating with anybody around our table this morning.
Well, I mean, just right off the bat, what is my heart's desire? And I just feel like that question kind of screams at you to like, okay, I need to take a minute to pause and reflect. Like, I think that's like that, like I can't really roll it off my tongue exactly what my heart's desire is. Like, I really think that just shows me, I really want to ponder that question. I really want to sit on that and really process that, because I think that we get so caught up in, what is my heart's desire? Well, I think I want to do blah, 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 or I would really like to do blah, blah, blah. And you just kind of go on, and you just start going, my personality type is just to hurry up and get it done. So, anyway, that's something that, I love that question kind of makes me pivot to a pause and say, okay, I need to take time to really search my heart and, reflect there. I mean, I think I know off the top of my head what my heart's desire is, but I think when you get in that still, quiet space, you're really gonna know and really discover that.
Thank you for sharing that. That we get, it's hard sometimes to admit we have to slow down to, take the time. We are worth it. Our families, our whole lives, our whole selves are worth that investment of time. And, it's not all flowery. Like, it is really, I hope that it would be clarifying, yes, right? To give you the permission you need to clear some space, to have that time to think. Michelle or Jen, did any of these questions kind of resonate with you?
Absolutely. I think, to build on what Linda said, I think when we are then able to pause and get clarity on where we want to go, to just start noticing, like, how are we not only feeling led, but how are we being led? What are those opportunities that emerge, and how do we make sure we're noticing them? Because sometimes opportunities are very small, right? To the pathway analogy, it might look like, oh, I have 5 choices here. Which one? And am I pausing before I make a decision? Or am I also allowing myself to just do without thinking through a lot? I think some of it is what are we tapping into our intuition and allowing ourselves to go there without overthinking? So there's what I love in our world right now, and I think it's the part of that challenging dichotomy of, like, we want to pause, but we also want to do. We want to think it through, but we also need to, like, trust ourselves. And so there's a whole weave of that, and that's what I'm really thinking of, but coming back, I keep coming back to this mug of, like, a year from now, what will you wish you had done today? And I think for many of us, myself included, it's like, oh yeah, I'll do it someday, but we may never have a someday.
I used to tell people when I decided to take the move and take the year of rest and reflection, I said, I started looking through my calendar for someday. It's not there. So I decided that if someday never comes, who are the people? And for me, that first 6 months of my sabbatical was about traveling to see loved ones that I said, someday I'm going to come visit. And I couldn't, I said, this is the day, like, this is the year, I've carved out this time, someday is here and now. And sometimes you have to make room for someday. However, and it doesn't have to be grand travel plans, right? It can be something simple, but if it's something that's really, that you just can't shake, that it's there, find someday, make someday a reality for you.
Make someday today.
Yeah. So Michelle, I'm curious what Michelle's thinking right now.
Yeah, so much. I'm noticing, okay, all of us on here, because I know us, right? We're all the forward moving type. But one thing that I know is that all of us have gleaned wisdom from that pausing, right? It's not natural to us, but there's so much richness there. Jennifer Britton, you held that space for me as a coach for years, because my coaching heart likes to go, 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 right? But you held that pause for me to get clarity. And all of you here, like, and that pivot, like, everything happens. I think, where are you feeling led? Just asking myself those emotional questions, again, probably is not natural for me. So just looking for the story behind the emotions kind of reveals a lot. And Kristin, it was on our podcast that just was released yesterday. I loved what you said of just how you shed light on the journey, that it's along the way that you find the people, but you held it with an open hand. And I think that's so important too. And when you do these pause points, it allows you to navigate and make decisions better. I'm also in the background, Jen B, I'm thinking daily steps plus consistent action equals momentum. So it's like this thing that you're holding at the same time. We're pausing, but yet moving forward. So much happening.
And taking the time to allow your journey to inform your next step, right? I think that's the, you can't have one without the other, because if you only reflect, but you never take any action, you likely won't see any progress, and you won't know how to readjust, or how to, it's the feedback cycle of, reflect, discern, take a step, see where it, see what comes of it. And it's this continuous review cycle of, okay, how did that work out? What should I do next? Like the next step informs the second step, the third step, but it's not as meaningful if you don't take time along the journey to assess, is it working? Is it not? What adjustments do you need to make? Yes. So you can't have one without the other. And I think our society is really action oriented, and we need that. But it's also the balance of reflection plus the action is where the real power starts to emerge in being authentic and really taking true steps towards where you want to be. So thank you all for sharing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kristin. And again, I hope that our listeners as well really enjoy the episode and the conversation that we had with you. I think it's episode 26. Is that correct, Michelle? Yeah, episode 26. Yes. And I think, really such a powerful, powerful morning as well coming together. So do listen in for more on this. A big thank you, to all of you for what we've been able to create today. Over at the blog, we're still talking virtual facilitation as we round down the year. Make sure that you're checking out over at remotepathways.com, the blog. There's a weekly download that you will still be able to access during 2020. And our conversation sparker, notice it's refreshed for 2020, 2021. I love this. Are you ready to pivot towards your purpose? What do you want? Michelle picked this one this week. So Michelle, what do you want to say about today's conversation sparker?
Yeah. Be inspired by Kristin and her episode and this challenging question that she carries forward into the world.
Fantastic. So, quote comes from me. Michelle captured this, but I, somewhere along the way, wrote, conversations need oxygen. What reflection, space, and pause are you leaving? So apropos, so appropriate for today's conversation. Notice the synchronies and synchronicities that show up in your world today, tomorrow, the next day. You'll see them as we pause. So our next episode coming out in 2 weeks, a year in review, we'll be taking a look back at our journey of the many different pathways in the remote work. We're going to do a part 2 celebration of like our seasonal guests who have been here, from Kristin to Jennifer to lots of other colleagues who we've met and we've known along the way. Again, like we're all on this journey together. Sometimes we're on the same road, many times we're on different roads, but just know that like we're all connected. When we get up in that 30,000 foot view, you can see the macro map that exists. So Kristin, final words as we go to wrap up from you and also from Michelle.
Well, I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And again, I want to really just encourage you to give yourself permission to slow down, give yourself permission to, roll around with those questions. And it's not a one and done activity. For me, a lot of times it emerges over time, and it's the trends, and it's the thoughts that keep popping up. It's the words that won't let us let go of them. And so I would just say lean into it. Writing is really cathartic, or however you keep record of your thoughts, whether that's in physical handwriting or in some digital form. But sometimes it's a real evolution and it takes time. And I know we are sort of an instantaneous society, but this type of work, give yourself some space and some time, and it's okay if it doesn't crystallize in the first couple of times that you try to do this. Keep at it, because it will, those trends will emerge, and I hope that will bring you a bright, hopeful direction and maybe you're already on it, right? So it doesn't have to be some big major pivot. I think that's the other piece, is it doesn't have to be some huge big swing. Maybe you've done the hard work and made some changes. Maybe it's more of a tweaking or a slight adjustment to your progress. Whatever is significant for you, lean into it and honor it, and have the courage to take some action towards it, to really explore it further.
Brilliant.
And we've got you highlighted on our guest page, so everyone be sure to check out remotepathways.com podcast guest, and you can get a direct connect link to Kristin on her LinkedIn page. I know she loves to connect. And Jen, you have a big Stand Out Virtually challenge coming up next week. So if you've heard this today and you have a message to share, be sure to jump in this challenge with Jennifer Britton. It's coming up. It's going to be fabulous. I've heard great things about it.
Well, join us, right? If you've liked today, there's 5 days of 30-minute calls open to anyone, as long, I'm going to max out my Zoom room at some point. And so go to standoutvirtually.com. The calls are going to be recorded and available throughout the week. So you can also join us at my Facebook community page, which is the Virtual and Remote Visionaries Hub. Easiest way to get there, though, standoutvirtually.com. And I think that's it. What a powerful day. Our next call, Thursday, December 17th. Thank you for making time. I feel so blessed to have this as an ongoing anchor in the world that continues to change and flux, but I know that our time together is always sacred. Thank you, Linda. Big thank you, Kristin, for what you've brought to us. And as always, thank you, Michelle, for our partnership. I'm going to leave final words to Michelle as we head on out with many more drinks on our table throughout today. Want to wish you well. Notice those synchronies. Notice what we've talked about. And Michelle, wrap us up.
Yeah. Cheers to you, I should say. Coffee cheers. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Have a good day. See you. Take care. Bye-bye.